11 o'clock in the morning, and already the humidity turned the air the consistency of pinto bean soup. They invited me to brunch with them on the farm, so I hadn't eaten breakfast. My head started to swim. The closest towns were 20 miles in either direction. I was on the right road, I just couldn't figure out which place was the one. I drove up and down the rolling hills and twisting curves of State Line Road at least 4 times, searching for Cantley Farm. I called Matt and Hardy's cell phones. No answer. They didn't get reception way out here. I turned around in a random gravel driveway overgrown with patches of weeds taller than the hood of the rental car. Littered with broken furniture, the ramshackle house in front of me had some missing floorboards on the front porch. There were other houses on the road, a couple of farmhouses set far off with silos and shelters for the tractors in the yards, an antebellum mansion with a skeleton of scaffolding built around it, and a couple of small, well-manicured homes set near the road. None of the places looked like 2 guys in their mid-20s lived there. I had no way of knowing which place I was supposed to go to, and I didn't want to knock on a random door. Folks around here know exactly who's a stranger and who's a local. Everybody has guns, and no one is afraid to use them. They didn't know anybody out here anyway, having just moved here 2 weeks ago. And the directions were vague. No house number, no street address, only the farm is on the Tennessee side of the road, just after the 3rd curve. There was no house just off the 3rd curve. There was only one thing left to do. Go to Tenntucky and wait. They drank beer there every day, and I knew that that would be the first place they'd come to look for me when I didn't show up. This area of the world is still isolated. No freeways within a half-an-hour drive. People wave when they pass each other in cars and on the roadways. State Line Road is the dividing line between Tennessee and Kentucky. Surrounded by tobacco fields, farms, and trees, it feels important and substantial because it's a border, because you're driving on something official but invisible. It's a dividing line, a boundary. There it was, Tenntucky. State Line Road comes to a dead end right in front of it as cars on the highway zoom past in front. A little oasis sitting on the actual state line on the invisible border right off the highway. About 20 yards before the bar on the highway is a little sign that says, "Leaving Tennessee." About 20 yards past is a welcome sign on the highway that says, "Welcome to Kentucky." Tenntucky sits in the swath between the two on a little hill. I knew Tenntucky, had passed it at least 4 times a week at one time in my life, but that was a long time ago. The little white building emanating a soft glow always fascinated me, but I never stopped. Usually after midnight, I was always alone, heading home after work, an hour drive back to Nashville ahead of me, often with hundreds of dollars in cash in my briefcase. Such a long time ago. Now, 12 years later, traveling through on the open road, with nowhere in particular to be, I almost had to pinch myself to believe that I ended up back in this part of the world. Now, a curious set of events dropped me off here. My Venice Beach bungalow sat a world away on temporary sublet with a friend of a friend. I had accepted a 9-month gig in Albuquerque back in February. Cities have personality. ABQ's personality and my own did not jive, similar to the disastrous clash of temperaments between my boss and I. By April, I cried in the shower every morning before work. Finally, I quit. I found a 6-week job in South Carolina on short notice. I had 2 days to put the things I carted with me from California into a storage unit, parked my car at the Albuquerque airport, and hopped the next plane out of there with just 1 suitcase and my cat. Day 1 at the new office in Columbia, South Carolina, I did something I swore I'd never do again. I fell for Matt, the office assistant 9 years my junior, the guy who made our daily coffee and ran our errands. Now, I had boyfriends in 7 major cities already, and I was happy to add another to my cougar harem. Matt's best friend Hardy had just inherited a family farm. In July, when our jobs ended, his plan was to retire to a land of no rent or responsibilities for a summer of free-flowing beer. Sounded good to me, too. I had no permanent place to live and nowhere to be until September when the subletter moved, so here I was, chasing a 24-year-old man across 3 states. I just hoped they'd let me live with them on the farm all summer. I parked the car in the Tenntucky parking lot, grabbed my purse and the cat carrier. The building, constructed of Brico blocks, had an air conditioning unit sitting in the window, dripping water in a steady rhythm, creating a damp circle on the concrete near the entrance. The bar had 2 separate front doors about a foot apart. The one the right, painted Kentucky Wildcat blue, stood padlocked and barred, with a light crust of dirt on the window panes. The door to the left was Tennessee Volunteer orange, the doorknob shiny with frequent use. "Hello," the bartender greeted me as I walked in the door. She was middle-aged, overweight, wearing cut-off jean shorts and a t-shirt, her hair thrown up in a rubber-banded ponytail. She tapped her cigarette in the ashtray. A quiet, expressionless man in overalls stared at the big screen television, taking sips of Busch Light from a special edition camouflage-patterned pan. The left half of the bar was painted orange, the right half blue to match the doors. Silence, except the hum of the air conditioner. They'd been watching me since I pulled up in the parking lot. "Y'all got food here?" I said. "Nope." The bartender chuckled a dry laugh as she took a drag from her cigarette and motioned toward a wire rack behind her full of candy bars, gum, and single-serve bags of chips. "Well then," I said, "I guess I'll just have a PBR tall boy and a bag of Fritos." She moved slow and deliberate and never took her eyes off me. She reached down underneath the bar and pulled the beer out of the ice. She wiped the top off with a cloth, popped the top, and set it down in front of me. She paused for a moment, staring at me. "You must be a friend of Hardy's." She turned to get my chips. "How'd you know?" "'Cause nobody around here drinks PBR except for him and Matt." "You seen them yet today? I can't find their house. Do you know which one it is?" "No, I don't, but I expect them up here any time." She stubbed out her cigarette and walked to the cooler on the other side of the room. "Guess I need to put more PBR on ice." She returned with a six-pack of the PBR tall boys. As she pulled them out of the plastic rings, she looked at me hard again for longer than a few seconds. Then, with a half smile and a sideways glance, she said, "I know you. Your voice is real familiar." "I'm not from around here," I said. "Well, I used to live in Nashville, and I used to come through this area, but it's been like 10, 12 years at least." She sucked in her breath. "I knew it! You used to do those parties, didn't you?" I smiled. "Yeah." "Remember me, Jennifer Denton, down off of Boyer Hill Road?" Her face lit up like she'd just discovered a long-lost friend. "You used to do Jello shots with us, even though you wasn't supposed to." Maybe." "No, it was you. I know it was you, 'cause then you quit. I heard you moved to California." "That's definitely me," I said. "Nobody was as funny as you. I had another lady come out, but she wasn't any good. She just stood there and gave quick descriptions of the products. Oh God, I still remember your speech about anal beads." I glanced over to the man in overalls at the other end of the bar. He only pretended to watch the TV now. "Tom," she said to the guy, "can you believe I know this girl? She used to be my sex party lady."